today to welcome our two speakers, both of whom are storytellers in different styles. We have Bharadwaj Rangan, who is Deputy Editor of the Hindu, authority on films, and loves traveling, so this subject of this book is most apt, and also into the arts and various other things like that, and he has a wide range of interests, which is why he sort of handles features at the Hindu these days. Mohan Raman needs no introduction if you watch television. You also needs no introduction if you want to hear stories. He'll carry on from now till cows come home, right? But how many of you all know that he's a management expert also? Good. He teaches management nowadays. He started life at Binny's and has, I don't know whether he sensibly moved on or not, but at least he probably more prosperously moved on. The book today to be launched, a word which I hate, books don't get launched as far as I'm concerned, they get released, is titled Filmy Escapes, and it's been published by Lonely Planet, the well-known travel book publishers who are now moving into different fields of travel. A brief note on the book, which we'll be discussing, is that this takes you to various locations where Hindi films were shot. No Tamil films figure in this, or no South Indian films figure. It's all Bollywood, places where they were filmed, which gives us only two venues in South India. One is Kerala and the other is Ooty. These are the only two venues which figure in this, right at the end, the last two. So the South doesn't figure in it. But the rest of it tells you films which were shot there, bits of their stories, where to stay, what to do, and not how to do it. This is going to be discussed, I think, more in terms of films today, I think, rather than travel as such. Hopefully both. Okay. Now, before we get on to this conversation between Bharadwaj and Mohan Raman, with a crowd here which is several new faces, it's time for my usual spiel. Sell you the book club. Remind some of you who haven't paid your subscriptions that it's getting almost time to pay the subscriptions for the new year, or at least pay for the last year if you haven't already. The book club is now nearly 15 years old, started by a few people in the publishing industry, started in the houses of publishers where we met for occasional meetings. And as I've always said, if you drink publishers' canteen tea, you won't come back to a meeting. So we wound up with about 7 or 8 faithfuls regularly, and we were almost on the verge of winding up when the Kumars, who were with the British Council, had just retired. Both of them were connected with the Madras Library Association and the Ranganathan Information Center, and they'd been operating out of the Connemara, which had given them a very good deal as part of its social corporate responsibility. And the Connemara has ever since then been giving us a fairly good deal as part of its social responsibility. But also, that was fine so long as we were doing one meeting a month. But ever since coming to the Connemara, we're now averaging 2 to 3 meetings a month. That means around this year, I think we'll wind up with about 30 meetings for this year. And Connemara is not going to be that liberal with us. They are also fairly well booked, so now we move out to other venues as well. But nevertheless, now we still have to pay for tea at some rate. So subscriptions are $8.50 for a single, $12.50 for a couple, and Jayanti is there with forms and waiting to receive either the form signed in, filled in, or your money. And money is especially from those who haven't paid and who have been members who haven't paid in as such. I look forward to several of you joining the club, because if you don't get invited, because we're making the policy not to open it out to the public as such, except on very, very rare occasions as such. So it is a members-only meeting as such. And before I wind up, let me just remind you about the meetings ahead. 19th December at the Connemara, Dr. Raman on science in the 18th and 19th century Madras. Dr. Raman, who is a biologist working in Australia at the University of New South Wales, at the Stuart University in New South Wales, has been working on a history of, particularly on Madras medical history, and he's come across a lot of people who have contributed significantly, not only in the medical field, but other fields of science, and he'll be speaking on the 19th. 6th January at the Hotel President, it will be Pankaj Mishra on a great clamor encounters with China and its neighbors. Pankaj Mishra has moved on to various things, and now he's much into semi-political travel writing as such. And this is what this book is all about. 27th January is Sharada Day, whose book is Ball Bam, which I know nothing about, and that will be at the Connemara too. So you'll see that already we're booked up. Even we try to avoid the book season, the music season for books, but we don't seem to be able to get out of it. So please join us at these meetings in future, and as well as join the club. Said that, we'll now get underway. Conversation between Mohan Raman and Bharadwaj Rangan, not till the cows come home, but till 45 minutes from now. Right? Thank you all.
Thanks for being here tonight. I thought one of the more interesting things about this book is that, like Mr. Muthaiya said, this is a very a Bollywood book. There is not much of other kind of cinema here, but I think it's slightly interesting that a brand as famous as Lonely Planet, which has become a kind of a byword for a certain kind of travel writing, has thought it prudent enough to publish a book that includes cinema and travel. It is kind of, for those of you who haven't seen this book or haven't flipped through it, it is basically a list of locations. For instance, we have, after the preface, we have Delhi, Agra, Lucknow, Varanasi, Kasauli, Nainital, and so on. And in each location, we have the usual Lonely Planet information of where to go, where to eat, what to see, and things like that. But along with that, we have nuggets about which film was shot there, which actor was here when this song was shot, those kinds of things. For example, you have, in the Mumbai section, you have Shilpa Shetty and Shiny Ahuja take a bus to Churchgate in Life in a Metro. Whether this will persuade someone to go to Churchgate, I don't know.
By bus. By bus.
By bus, yeah. So that's a different thing altogether. But there is a certain, it's interesting to have a location identified not by, say, the British did this here, or, something historical, but by something slightly fanciful, like an imaginary story and an imaginary situation took place in this location. I wouldn't say struggle, that's too big a word, but I've been trying to reconcile this notion of somebody wanting to go to a place because a fictional thing happened there. That's a little bizarre for me. So, but I can also see how some people are, like we were just talking about this earlier, like how the Lord of the Rings tour, for instance, has become a big thing in New Zealand, because the people want to actually get onto a tour and see the places where the film was shot. So So, I mean, film has always been, locations have always been a part of cinema, but now cinema has become a part of a book about locations, and I think that's kind of interesting. What do you think?
Certainly. But one addition to this is Kodaikanal near Pillar Rocks was the cave which was called the Guna Caves because the film Guna was shot. It probably had some other name. And for a long period of time, people used to hire guides and then they blocked it because a couple of people fell, broke this. So the Guna Caves was something which brought people to Kodaikanal and made them go all the way to Pillar Rock. So there is possibility here if done well, if marketed well, if presented well.
Right.
What I found missing was, it's okay, they've chosen the typical Khandla, the Lonavala, the Mahabaleshwar locations which Bollywood frequents. But there are a number of locations in the south where fabulous Bollywood films have been shot. Nobody can forget the Brindavan Gardens, which stood as the standard song location for any film made in India for a number of years.
Yeah.
And the Dashara lighting of the palace and all the other things, Mysore doesn't feature here. And Yerkad, Thekadi, Munnar, and of course Mithun Chakravarti owns a huge resort in Mudumalai. He lived for a long period of time. He stayed in Chennai and did his movies from Chennai, ex-Chennai. Most of Mithunda's films were shot in Vijayavahini and AVM because he stayed in near Bangalore, between Bangalore and Mudumalai. So did Mehmood, the Hindi film actor. So Bangalore was quite a popular location. Madras was the hub of all film making. The Mahabalipuram temple, the Madurai Meenakshi temple exterior, if necessary. I mean, okay, I'm not getting into Tamil films. If I get into Tamil films, then the biggest draw is Pollachi. Every village, including Chennai Express, which incidentally features, there's something interesting, Bharadwaj. Why near Panchgani Mahabaleshwar? Why is the name of the place? They just say that they used Y for a few alternate shots for Ooty. Factually, it's wrong. They used Y entirely. If you've seen the movie, which you will find that there are two villages. One, they'll end up in a village where I am the priest or whatever you want to call it. I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
And that village, the entire set was erected in Y. They destroyed that village after our schedule was over and recreated another village for Satyaraja's village. So all these so-called homes, houses, villages, everything was built in Y. I was there for about 25 days, let alone Satyaraj, who spent another month and a half for his village portions. So Y Mahabaleshwar is a very popular location, especially with both Shah Rukh Khan and Rohit Shetty. But locations remind me, a number of people called me and said, Mr. Mohan Ram, we know that you are a Tambram, you know your religion, can you tell me how or where the temple is? I said, why are you asking me? If you straight away asked me where is the temple, I would have given you an answer, but why all this? I said, but didn't you? I said, yes, I did. I came as a Shaivite with the priest with Vibhuti. The temple was a Murugan temple near Kangeyam. Sadly, the Sanctum Sanctorum was closed during the entire shoot. So whenever the camera went like this, say if you are the camera and I am me and this is Shah Rukh Khan. And somewhere here was the deity. The door was closed. What they did was, by computer graphics, they recreated a deity. It's a Murugan temple, so it's got a huge veil, it has got a peacock, everything in front. I am here with my Pata Vibhudi, and they created a Balaji in the back. So a lot of people got foxed. என்ன மிஸ்டர் மோகன் ராம் நீங்க பட்ட போட்டுக்கிறீங்க, முன்னால வேல் இருக்கு, மயில் இருக்கு, பின்னால ஸ்ரீனிவாச பெருமாள் இருக்காரு, இது எந்த கோவில் இது? So half the locations go. Half the times locations go. There is this Konkan railway bit of the railway scene. People are wondering, where is this such a beautiful spot? No, they used the railway, the track, the rest of this on the left hand side was created by graphics, like Avatar. They built a waterfall there, they did a whole lot. There was a trickle of water there, they made it a gushing waterfall. So these days, it's very tough to believe that this is the location. So sometimes, if you go there and see this is the place. Nah, look much better in the movie. Yes, because there's a lot of computer enhancement possibilities. However, I have a doubt as to who the target audience for this book is. If it's a regular traveler, he is not going to be interested in the Bollywood part of it. If he is a Bollywood fan, he would like to know in Bombay where Shah Rukh Khan's house is. And that's the information he is going to look for. I think this is just a nice travel book because anyway it has got all the information that any Lonely Planet publication will have. Mahabaleshwar, these are the places to eat. Which reminds me, somebody in Y must make a note that, in the Mahabaleshwar section, there is a fabulous eating spot which is a Gujarati mess, the Marwadi mess there. Absolutely wonderful food that doesn't feature here, but I'm sure being a veg, we had to go in search of good food there, and fabulous place. Why Mahabaleshwar? That belt Panchgani is where most of Shah Rukh's films are shot. Amir Khan shot his entire, the boarding school was there, where Amir teaches that differently abled boy. Thare Zameen Par. So it was shot there. In fact, the people, when you go there, they show, yahi hua tha shooting. I said, oh, nice. But we can't go into the boarding school. So whenever we have such kind of travel things, like Mysore, near Mysore is the famous huge barren rock place where Sholay was shot. Recently in the television, they took Ramesh Sippy there and then they showed us, superimposed parts. It was very nice. I don't know why that spot hasn't found aficionados of that film going and visiting that.
Because I think it's a little out of the way. I think one thing what he said was interesting, which is it's very difficult to tell apart what was actually in the film and what that location is really like, because there is so much computer enhancement in the graphics, with graphics and special effects and things like that. But I think one interesting thing about this book is that it doesn't just concentrate on the so-called special locations like the Sholay Rock or the Guna Caves or whatever it is. There are very down-to-earth locations like the Chowpatty Beach and things like that, which kind of, I suppose, infuse a bit of magic into the very mundane aspects of a city, because something special happened there. So answering your question about who is the target audience for this book, I think this book is basically going to be for people who, it's because people who want India guides are going to buy big India guides. I think this is going to be for people who are interested in films and who go on those tours and basically want to see a bit of, what kind of films are shot there. But I also think that for a young filmmaker, let's say a young director, they could get a good idea of how to say, because when you watch a film, you think that it's always someplace inaccessible. You think things are cordoned off. You think that, the special permissions have to be taken. This has to be done. That has to be done. All of that is true. But then you realize how simple some of these locations are and how commonplace they are. So you can actually shoot an entire movie. Like let's say you are based in Agra. You can actually go through this and shoot that entire movie using the locations in Agra and kind of give you a guide about. So I think that's a target audience too, for like a filmmaker who wants to do something with his film.
Yeah, the production executives.
Yeah.
That way, yes. interesting factoids, little nuggets they provided. This song, that if you've been a film buff like we have been, or we are, so it does a lot of magic. The book does a lot of magic. Very well written, interestingly written. I admire the way they have used films as an accompaniment to travel, which is the main item on the agenda. It is not a film book.
Yeah.
It's a travelogue. If you have decided to go to Mahabaleshwar, so you look at Mahabaleshwar, Panchgani and all these places, as a bonus piece of information you get that so-and-so film was shot here, or this was shot there, or that was shot there. So if you're a traveler and you're interested in films, then this is the book to get. That way, yes. But you need to have an interest in films, basically, to approach this book. Just as probably the next publication on temples, which I see in the chair, obviously, you've decided to go to Madurai, you can see so many things, but if you want to go know about the Meenakshi temple, then I guess you will choose that book. But if this southern edition was there, then I will talk of Vijay Khan shooting Kallalagar there and so many other things there. What this book definitely calls for is audience participation in the form of people who know where other films were shot. Once their contribution comes in, I am sure the second edition is going to be fabulously rich with a lot more film-based information. The food spots and the staying spots and the reaching nearest railway station, this, that, the other, airport, everything will remain the same. What will be added will be more nuggets on films. I think this is a book which will grow with its editions.
Yeah, I think it'll also grow if you have films from different places, with languages and places, because, for instance, I think this may actually be a more valuable book if it focuses on locations that are pretty unknown. Like you have, let's say, Assamese cinema, which it's very difficult to get a hold of because it's not distributed widely, subtitling is very hard to come by, and the region doesn't produce that many films. But even with that, if, let's say you have Lonely Planet produces a book about the Northeast, let's say. So you can include a lot of those locations, and that would be a kind of a discovery of how those people, because I think one of the things while making a film is that certain peculiar, a Chennai filmmaker will always choose less cliched locations for his film than somebody who's coming from Bombay and making a film. Because if you notice in many films, if a film, even this happens in Hollywood, it happens here. If somebody is going to Delhi, the Delhi is, you first see India Gate. If somebody is going to Sydney, you see the Sydney Opera House. If somebody is going to London, you see the bridge, and it's everywhere. It always happens. So I asked a filmmaker once, why do you do this? Can't you show London by something else, like just by the way people are? Why do you need to show that one landmark every single time? Why always, whether in Hollywood, whether here, every time? He just said, it's just a mental association. It's a quick mental association with the place. And that is something that it seemed to make sense to me that for some people it's just a subliminal kind of connect that they've just, they've seen it so many times, the minute they see that visual, they really register that they are in London. So that kind of signaling also happens when you have locations in cinema, that kind of, thing. But what I was trying to say is that a Chennai filmmaker will always try to, like if you look at a Selvaraghavan's film, for instance, the kind of Chennai that he shows is not the typical Chennai that a person coming from outside, because he's not going to go to Marina Beach and show you Marina Beach. He's going to show you a very different color of Chennai. So that's also a very interesting thing to look at, how a local filmmaker handles locations versus somebody from outside comes in.
But amongst all the local filmmakers, one of the greatest filmmakers from Chennai was the director Sridhar. And he had this penchant for the marina. Almost every film of his will have one scene shot in the Marina Beach. If you go through all his films, Cordially had that beautiful Yennaparvai with our Venkatachalam's Impala. car, everything. Ten Nilavu will have Vaijanti and Gemini meeting for the first time opposite Presidency College. Sumai Tangi had the full song itself opposite IG's office. Nenjirukum Vare had Shivaji singing where his statue as of the moment is. I have to be careful. So all his films have got the Madras beach. And then I asked Gopu, who was his associate, I said, why? பாதி படம் நாங்க பீச்சில் தானே உட்காந்து எழுதுவோம். வை அப்ப மரம் இருந்ததுடா, அதுக்கு அடியில் உட்காந்துப்போம், அவர் சிகரெட் புஷ்னே இருப்பார், நான் சொல்லினே இருப்பார், நான் எழுதிட்டே இருப்பேன். ஸோ தட் வாஸ் திஸ் பிளேஸ் வேர் வி காட் தி இன்ஸ்பிரேஷன். அந்த காத்து எல்லாம் நல்லா குவைட்டா இருக்கும். மத்தியானத்துல பசங்க எல்லாம் வரமாட்டாங்க, தொந்தரவு பண்ண மாட்டாங்க. இப்பதான் வசவசன்னு இருக்கு. Otherwise it used to be a very nice quiet place for us to sit and write. Quite amazing. I was quite stunned by that revelation of Gopu's. So Marina Beach as a location has its own possibilities. And of course the famous Elliott's Beach, that monument which I understand is getting renovated, or I don't know. Let's not talk about it. Great locations, but as Bharadwaj says, you need an outsider's perspective also, as well as the local person's perspective. Local person will view it completely differently. Mr. Balchandar goes to Vizag, he can't but shoot anywhere else except the beach where those waves come in between those rocks. Vizag poetry, he has to shoot it, whether he did it for duet or he did it for many of his earlier films. Ek Duje Ke Liye, those rocks and that, he says, no, but somehow they pull me there. Those are wonderful places for us to even just go and watch. The advantage when you use a location which a filmmaker has used, following are there. First, it will be pleasing to the eye because it needs to be pleasing for the camera. Two, certain basic amenities and facilities have to be available because you can't take the film unit there if there is not even a tea shop. You will need certain basic amenities. So these things are looked after if you go to a oft-treaded film location.
Yeah.
So that way, Pollachi, in the early years when we went, we'll go to any house and say, Amma, இந்த ஷாட்டுக்கு ஒரு 4 கோழி வேணும்னா எட்டுக்கு தம்பி அப்படின்னுவாங்க. Later they got to know that this is good money. So somewhere go there, some lady will come. அப்ப என் கோழி பாதி, என் கோழி போச்சுல 15 ரூபா கொடு. We wouldn't have asked for the kodi to go, but it would have gone. She will say, my kodi has acted in your film, give me $15. Certain things happen, some fabulous things happen, like one entire village with P. Vasu had during his film called Vela Kadichirchi. Elections, the villain comes and threatens the villagers and says, Oru nai vote pota kuda kola ulum. And so the whole village gets silent, and Satyaraj is the man who's contesting opposite him. So Vasu had kept a shot. He had told his assistants, just close all the doors, everything. I just want one shot of the village completely silent and quiet. Nobody has come out. Exactly at that time, one street dog just walked. And this is the intercut, the next shot, when the villain shouts, Oru nai vanda kuda konnuduve, correcta and the nai vandichu. And slowly Vasu shouts, and then everybody opens their door and starts coming out. This was shot. They did the Telugu version, and they thought this was a directorial masterpiece. And the director came and asked, sir, how did you manage to get one street dog to act like that, sir? We had such a problem, sir. All trained dogs were good-looking dogs, but to get a street dog to act. So most movies, sometimes these accidents, pleasant accidents too happen. This Pollachi, Udumalpet, Erode, this belt has got a number of interesting film locations, and one fabulous location missed out is the village of